where they are. Japanese rider coming flying up the outside.
.39 to go. There is Beppu in the white jersey, the black shorts. This really would be... He's nothing to lose, actually. He's not one of the favourites. Yes, he's the big name here, but he's never really been in the business of winning too many races. He's always been a star domestique who's been appreciated by his teammates. Has been a good presence in the team. Riding without any pressure here is the 35-year-old towards the end of his career.
Hugely popular rider within the peloton from Yuki Beppu, has been for years.
Now then, attack at the front. Oh, and he's still got more to give us, John. Oh, what a ride this has been. The Korean tactic is to stay out as long as possible today. Pressure off for the defending champion after the Korean woman won gold yesterday. And Đứng KY, the reigning Asian Games champion, is at it again. Well, let's be realistic about this. He isn't going to stay away to the finish. You put your house on that. But he's certainly staying out there long, and he's meaning that behind, his team has to do no work whatsoever. They can sit in, relax, and wait for the fireworks to kick off.
He's just going for a time trial to the base of the climb and then see what he can do. And there's thus far no real response from his 5 breakaway riders.
You can see the breakaway group or what's left of it behind. And if you look right to the base of your shot, just coming to the top of the screen in the centre now, you can see the outlying motorbike and the peloton chasing behind. All on one long straight road. The differences are minimal here. Five riders in no man's land here. It won't be too long before they're caught. Still with 37 kilometres to go. Is there any other will in the group behind to join up in front? The gap is bridgeable to both groups if you're strong enough. A very, very light tailwind, which will assist attackers, but it's not too strong.
This is a proper attack from ďứng. Really pulling away, ever so slightly uphill. Said that on the undulating landscape that we've been encountering in the run-in to the final climb, there was a little more uphill in this direction than there was when they were heading out, and he's making it count.
This is what's left of the 5-man break. Hong Kong, China trying to get up the road. The peloton have given them 54 seconds here. They've been bunching up, they've been waiting. I think they've realised that they aren't too much of a threat right now. You could just see them sitting up in the last half a minute or so. Last time we had a look. ďứng KY, the reigning Asian Games champion, 28-year-old. Last time we had a look. He used to ride for Korail. Former winner of the Tour of Hokkaido. 2-time stage winner at the Tour of Korea. There's that at the front, showing off the national jersey. In the chase, Vincent Lau in the navy blue and white. In the blue, white and green, it's Murdajan Khalmuratov of Uzbekistan. Vincent Lau, by the way, from Hong Kong, China.
16 years ago, the last time we had a solo breakaway victory. Sergei Khrushchevsky.
ďứng trying everything he could to try and get every advantage, but I don't like that top tube pedaling stuff.
Well, that's a good effort once again from Mohammed Gangkhanul. managing to catch up with the riders from Hong Kong, China, and from Uzbekistan, Murajan Kalmuratov, alongside Vincent Lau. And so the difference between these three riders and Young up in front is around 30 seconds and nearly a minute back, I'm assuming, from Young to the chasing peloton.
Well, there's no potholes ahead of him. Painful if there are.
Yeah, right in the Jats crackers if you get that wrong.
Three in the chase. "35k still to go." It's the long straight road back to Subang. This is the shape of the peloton behind. Straightish line, but I don't think they're travelling at too much of a great lick right now. You can just see that there's the odd rider having a conversation with another. Kazakhstan content to control. Nothing more, nothing less at the moment.
The conversation that will be going on between the four riders out in front at the moment as well, of course, will be, right, we've got another 15 kilometres to go now. That's when the climb starts. That's where our plan kicks into action. That's what we've been setting this all up for. We've just got to make sure that we don't allow any of these riders to get a significant advantage. And I think the reality is that they know that with Young, he is a sprinter. He won his Asian Games title on a flat course in Incheon 4 years ago, where the team worked very effectively to set him up into the sprint. There's no chance that he's going to be able to survive what we know is a very aggressive gradient in the latter part of today's stage.
I think the first part of the climb as well is very rideable with the assistance of a teammate. So if they're saving Evgeny Gidik for that, he can ride and set the pace for Lutsenko and do a lot of damage, rather like we see in the bigger races and the teams where you have riders riding four others peeling off after they've done their work. And once it gets to the steepest part, which is very short, let's be honest, for a rider like Lutsenko, we're not talking Monte Zoncolan or anything like that. Certainly not the Angliru with the welter coming up. This is something that Kazakhstan will be able to ride together with for the first few kilometres, and then you'd imagine Lutsenko to launch his attack with a few Ks to go. Subang up in the distance. It's where we started today. We'll finish just outside of town, up the hill, in a place called Chayak. It's one long straight road, this, isn't it? You could be 30 seconds a minute behind you, you still see the riders in front of you up the road. This is the second group on the road, by the way. Chasing Zhong. Zhong at the top right-hand side of your picture, where you can see the two cars. He has a good 30 seconds. He's emptying the tank for the Republic of Korea right now. Has to settle in, get as aero as he can, get every little bit of assistance. He's gone for the skin suit as well today. Certainly with the temperatures, there's no reason not to wear something like that. Very, very warm indeed. That'll keep you nice and cool too. Interesting that neutral service has just been told to get in that gap, so it must be more than 30 seconds.
Shakes off, stretches out again. We've seen him doing that on plenty of occasions throughout today's stage. Remember, just 10 minutes into today's stage, and he would have probably gone sooner if it hadn't been for the fact that one of the Thai riders suffered a mechanical right straight after the start, and we had neutralised racing for the first 4 kilometres. And then Young was involved. Then he was involved straight away. He was the first man to go. He went up the road and off he went. He had a little bit of company in the initial breakaway of the day. There were 3 of them up the road for over 2 hours. They came back together. Another breakaway was formed. Young bridged over to join that breakaway. Back it came once again, and then he set off on his own. So 3 times today, effectively, Young has headed out in a breakaway, quite content to be on his own, really doing great justice to the defence of his title.
35 seconds between the lone leader and these 3 chasing on. Approaching the final 30 kilometres. 10 k's or so more of this particular terrain. The road will start to get a bit more busy in terms of furniture, as well, there's no replacement bidon, but you can have a bottle of water if you want. Bar doesn't close until 10 k's to go today, by the way, but there's no team cars allowed in that gap at the minute. Well, 1 minute and 40 for the leader ahead of the peloton. 40 seconds from this man to the chase.
If that's the case, he should hit the base of the climb on his own.
I have a feeling he's going to have nothing left though by the time the gradient goes uphill.
Yeah, well, we saw perhaps the best of the women's sprinters. That of Vietnam absolutely blow up on the climb yesterday. So, well, you never rightfully know, but it does have some really nasty ramps. Gradient-wise, I mean, what is the best comparison that we can make to it? Is it something like Mur de Bretagne, Mur de Huy? I mean, it's not as long as those climbs, but the gradient in parts it looks really nasty. I'm sure it must be pushing 80%.
There's a short section in the middle,
yeah,
that is quite steep, but it's an 18-kilometre climb, let's not forget. This is a long climb that isn't too difficult in the grand scheme of things. It has a very, very steep section in the centre, but apart from that, this is nothing that a lot of these riders haven't seen before. It is something that we don't normally see in an Asian Games road race course, though. We normally have pan-flat courses, and this is a very welcome addition to the programme, we should say. 29.5 k still to go. Seen an Asian Games road race course, though. We normally have pan-flat courses. Approaching the finale. This is a very welcome addition to the programme. 3 riders now at the front for Kazakhstan. 29.5 k still to go. Seen an Asian Games road race. Senko sits at the back. We're approaching the finale. Shake of the legs. Get 3 riders now at the front for Kazakhstan. Iran with their remaining 3 riders just behind them in position as well. They know that the attack is approaching. In the last few years, we've had victories for Korea, for Hong Kong, for Uzbekistan. It's been a long, long time since there was a winner from Kazakhstan. Riders in this race who've been on the podium as well. We've seen Zhang in the breakaway. Sohrabi, who was a silver medalist 12 years ago, is in this particular group. Sitting there with an Iran jersey on. Another motorbike taken out of the gap, which suggests that the gap is decreasing from these 3 to the peloton. Racing for almost 2 3/4 hours now.
Đối với 16 tỷ đô la hàng hóa của Trung
Daniil Fominyuk in the light blue and yellow. Behind him, Jandos Bishigitov. Third wheel, Alexei Lutsenko. And I know that Yevgeny Gidik has gone back to the car for yet more food and drink for Kazakhstan, probably for the last time.
Just 18.2 kilometres to go until the bar closes, as Rob's pointed out. So as they face the first little undulation, the uphill section of it, 10 kilometers to go for this man until he reaches the base of our final climb.
He must be absolutely tired out, is Jung. What a ride it's been so far from him. 120 Ks at the front of the bike race almost. Very impressive performance, even though he's unlikely to be amongst the top finishers. Almuratov just sitting in front of the rider from Iran, Ganjkanlu. And at the back, not overly enthusiastic to contribute, Vincent La. Behind in the peloton, they've slowed down. The three behind about to be caught by the peloton, I think. A good 20 seconds behind. It's a minute and 25 from this man to the peloton. Not a dangerous lead, given the fact that he's been out there all day, and given the type of rider he is. He's no climber. Here's Jong. I'm sure he'll be doing his best to make us eat all our words. I think we can be pretty confident that this isn't the man who'll be contesting the finish today. I'm sure he'll be doing his best to make us eat all our words. I think confident.
Good couple of days for Korean cycling though. Gold medalists in the women's race yesterday, and with the defending champion from the men's race really setting alight this edition of the men's race taking place here in Indonesia.
800 metres on the road between the sole leader and those three on your screen. 1.2 kilometres back to this group, led by Kazakhstan, as it has been since the very start of the race. And here they are, their full four-man complement of riders, just controlling things. Experienced enough to know how this game works and what is to come. And all of these riders will have ridden the final climb today. They will all know what to expect. Recon in the last few days made a lot easier by the fact that it's an out and back course. Riders can probably just ride up the climb from their hotel. All four of the main road events finish at the same place up the top of the hill. Men's and women's road race, men's and women's time trial. Roads committed to recent memory. Oh, it's a long, long look back from Jong.
Well, Jong's not involved in the time trial that comes up tomorrow, but what he is involved in is a time trial on his own now. It is just him against the remainder of the field. Keeps on glancing back over his shoulder. He should just put his head down and go for it now. I mean, that's what he's committed to doing. It's no other real option, is there?
Looking back in the rear view mirror then, and there was nothing to see. Empty road as we approach the final 25 kilometres. Yevgeny Gidik at the back, keeping spirits up and keeping his leader cool. Really impressive result that for him in Croatia earlier this year. Won the final stage of the Tour of Qinghai Lake this time last year. This is his first year as a professional at the top level. And he's been given a lot of responsibility at the Asian Games.
Bidons jettisoned into the side of the road as the riders prepare for the final stages of this men's road race. Trio of riders in pursuit of Young, who's up the road, and with a slight advantage over the main peloton as things currently stand. We have less than 25 kilometres to go. As you saw from the latest overhead picture, we're cutting a swathe through this lovely bit of primary rainforest before making our way back into Subang, and then it's all uphill.
Ďong continues to press on, again fighting for every aero advantage possible, even though that's not necessarily pretty at times. Gap good enough for that car to be in the gap. Republic of Korea. Commissar there as well, just giving him an updated gap. About a minute. In fact, it's the Commissar's car and the neutral service car behind. Neutral service car being exactly as the name suggests, not affiliated to any of the teams. There to help out in case of a mechanical for any of the riders who have a problem. Well, he's got rather more than a minute. Minute and 45 on the peloton. They know that the terrain that they're about to hit is in their favour. Travelling at a good 46 k's per hour here. Here's Jong. And he's approaching the final 22 kilometres to go. Final bits of food and drink being taken on board before the moment we've been building up to, the moment we've been waiting for arrives. I think these three know they're done for.
He must be as mystified as anybody. What's gone wrong? They started slowly, then they started to find a groove, and now they just collapsed. Well, they just cannot deal with these serves that are coming at them from Xie Yi Cheng. It's basically, this burst of serves has blown this first set wide open. Now Chinese Taipei lead by 7. And again, the problems just go on.
And being up the road is generally a better place to be. Let's not forget that. What if there's a mechanical incident behind? What if there's a mass crash? He's the one that's out the way of it and up the road and with an advantage. But with the terrain still to come, his tired body and the type of rider he is, suited to more flat terrain, he is not a realistic medal prospect here, is Jung. He is riding his heart out and he's on his way back into Subang with less than 22 k's to go. These are those we expect to contest the win. It will come from the peloton, we think.
Will be really interesting to see how that peloton becomes organised and how quickly it becomes organised when they start the climb. All of that on the menu coming up in the next half an hour.
They're back into that sign that welcomes them to Subang. Familiar roads for all of those who flew in a few days ago, stayed in this area. Away from one of the co-host cities in Jakarta, where we've seen the athletes' village and ceremonies and all that sort of stuff going on. Not many of these riders will have marched at the end of last week. They'll have had their heads on this road race, and they'll have been down in this area training and on the road for quite a few days now. 2 minutes and 1 second for Jong. Wow. It's quite a head start, but I think you need a little more. Certainly once he hits that big gradient and once Kazakhstan get to work here, we know we have a real race on with 20 kilometers remaining. They won't let that gap grow any further. But I'm pretty sure at the moment there hasn't been one of those epic miscalculations just yet. In the words of an esteemed colleague of ours, Kazakhstan have been making the calculation pretty well today, as we see those 3 riders absorbed by the rest of the peloton. So it is just a 2-minute gap between the lone rider at the front, the defending champion Jong, and Kazakhstan and company. Kazakhstan, if you're just joining us, with the pre-race favourite Alexei Lutsenko, the former World Under-23 champion who rides for Astana on the World Tour. A winner of a stage at the Vuelta a España, the Tour of Spain last year. A winner of a stage of Paris-Nice earlier on in his career as well. He is a top rider. This is the man they're chasing. Winner on a flat course in Incheon 4 years ago. I can attest to how flat that was. I rode it on my own bike and even I got round okay. I'm not fit to lace the boots of these riders here. Travelling at mid-40s k's per hour. There we go, 46. Hot day, remember, 35 degrees, lots to contend with. And Kazakhstan have done really well just to use up their 2 men. Gidik has been back to grab a little bit of food, but he hasn't been on the front. He is one of their protected riders with Lutsenko. And Jong is approaching the period and the point in the race where the road really just starts to go uphill for the first time. There's a short bit of a climb, then it levels off, then the steepest part of the climb, and then for the last 5 kilometers it levels off somewhat again. Interesting to start watching the gap and what happens to it from this point on, I think, now.
If we got an overhead picture, you would see the same streets that we were passing at the start. This is where we are in relation to the race overall. Subang, where we kicked off this men's road race at the Asian Games 2018. And it's the man who won in Incheon who's out in front on his own.
Almost 3 hours of racing for Đứng Kỷ, the reigning Asian Games champion, the 28-year-old from the Republic of Korea. Inside 18 kilometers to go, the crowds absolutely huge on the side of the roads. We've had 3 hours of a warm-up for this.
Well, that's the right-hand turn that leads us now towards the base of our volcanic climb.
You do expect an eruption of some sorts in the peloton behind. Who will be the hottest property to make the move out of it? Gap goes below 2 minutes. And at one stage it didn't look like we'd be seeing Jong at the front for too much longer. He made both the first and the second moves that went away. He has been the strongest rider we've seen in the race today, without doubt, so far. The terrain upcoming doesn't suit him, though. And you can imagine those legs right now are screaming with pain.
Holding on, cheered on by those who've taken to the roadsides to support the men's road race here. It is Jung, the defending champion, Đứng Kỷ of Korea, who currently holds what was, at last time check, a 2-minute advantage over the chasing pack.
Kazakhstan are seriously going to work now. There's a serious upping of pace in the peloton. Strong out, travelling at 50k an hour now. Both Fuminyuk and Bezhiktov know that their time to empty their own tanks has come. Every last little bit of energy will be given for their leader, Lutsenko, as we approach the start line again. The road does rise from here all the way to the line, from around 80 metres above sea level to 540. And that's, again, for those of you who weren't lucky enough to watch the women's road race with us yesterday, it's about 1,500 feet in old money.
Well, how he'll be wishing that this was the finish line.
He is swinging already here. He's given everything on the bike as John. And it's going to hurt as soon as they go uphill. We've still got those cars in between the gap at the moment, as the gap is still considerable, but I have a feeling it's going to come down very, very quickly indeed once the road starts to continue to go uphill. 1:44, he's lost 15 seconds since they made it into town, and we saw that marked increase in the rhythm behind from the peloton. Look at this, one long line of riders behind. The chase is seriously on now.
And it's as stretched out as it has been in the entire race, and that is just a demonstration of how much power is being put on the front here by Kazakhstan.
Lutsenko sits third wheel still. I mean, has there been a surprise made and they're going to give it a go for Giddick? We shall see. We think that Lutsenko's the biggest name here. The course suits him, but of course Giddick was third overall at the Tour of Korea earlier in the season. Let's not count him out. He's been just as protected as Lutsenko so far. Both of those riders to take it on the final climb. The domestics have done the work. It is remarkable. For the last 120 odd kilometres in that big long group, there have only been two riders doing any sort of work whatsoever. They have been Daniil Furmanyuk, the 27-year-old from Kazakhstan, and his compatriot Jandosh Bijikov. Bijikov now at the front. 15 kilometres to go for the lone breakaway rider. A minute and a half behind. This is the peloton. Iran sit waiting, sit ready. Poursaidi might want to go at this as well. Men's road race hossing up. There is gold up for grabs at the Asian Games. Much more exciting finish than the one I think we saw 4 years ago in Incheon. Little bit of a conversation. Oh, there are riders who are already out the back who are not going to finish amongst the top. Two from the UAE. Shows the difference in level. On the right hand side, Chung King Lok and Hong Kong China making their way up to the front of the bunch. Towards the back here, number 48, who's done his job already, is Yevgeny Giddick. Final conversation with those from Kazakhstan. Of course, he is a top level pro. We'll be seeing him again at the front. This is Jong. Remember, no more feeding in 4 kilometres time, and you can just start to see the road narrow, the road start to rise uphill. This is where the next part of the climb starts.
I don't want to completely write him off, but he looks all over the place. And he's still got 14 kilometres to go.
Part of it is his style. We've seen this from the start. It isn't the most smooth. Now the first attacks begin in the peloton behind. Lutsenko has lost a couple of teammates. They've been working into the base of this climb. He now sits in fourth wheel, ready and waiting. And it's Chinese Taipei who start to make the move. 24, Vincent Lau, binned out the back. Indonesia go on the attack with a rider there as well. On the left-hand side, you can see the Japanese rider, Nakane, having a go. And as the road starts to rise up, the bid for Asian Games gold begins in earnest. And Alexei Lutsenko, the pre-race favourite, is exactly where he wanted to be. Not putting himself in the wind too much, but sitting there in the right position. Fourth wheel with the light blue and yellow on. This is the group we will continue to watch. This is the group from which the winner will come. A couple of Malaysian riders are already feeling the heat towards the back, and it's been a sort of race that has been full gas for quite a while in the last 20 or 30 Ks or so. Certainly at the front. And there are riders who, with the heat, won't be coping very well. Now, Iran start to get organised. They have a couple of riders to ride for Poursaidi. And we've got movement on the left-hand side. Look at the gap. Look what's happened to the gap. 1 single minute. And Lutsenko is following the moves very well. So ďØNG isn't going to be a feature for too long. In the meantime, there are problems at the back for a couple of riders from Korea. For China there, moving all the way back was Bai Lee Jun. Iran with 2 riders in the mix. And Lutsenko follows the wheels well. ďØNG is fighting for his dear life up the front. Good ride from the rider from Indonesia on the left-hand side as Lutsenko looks on. That is Seo Jun-young of Korea being dropped. And Giddick was making his way back to the bunch. Pretty inopportune moment, really, to go back and talk to the car. But he is on the back of the bunch now. May well reach the front to be of some assistance to Lutsenko if he can. Short section of descent for ďØNG. His gap already halved. Movement again from Indonesia. Lutsenko looks around. Still a big enough group now, about 30 riders here.
Impressive riding from the Indonesian team. They've managed to stay largely out of any form of trouble throughout the majority of today's stage, and then they're just coming to the fore here. 2 riders in this group. You've got one of the Japanese team in there as well, and a Mongolian just coming up alongside. Thailand have got representation, Malaysia representation there as well. Lutsenko looking very relaxed so far, but we've got a good eclectic mix of riders.
This is ďØNG who's still at the front. But for how long? Again, just an indication of what we said about the climb. This is not the hardest in the world. He has 1 minute and 3 seconds, but it is about to ramp up again in a couple of kilometres' time. Chungking Lok now back at the front. I think Lutsenko and Giddick, who occupy the first 5 positions there.
Lutsenko glancing over his shoulder, I'm sure just to check where Giddick is to know exactly where his position will be. Just wants a little bit of company to go up this climb.
I'm just wondering if Yevgeny Giddick is in fact the man they're going to give a go. Lutsenko has looked well and reacted well, but he sits there. Lutsenko is looking around for him. Now, is that because he wants someone to do some work for him? Surely Lutsenko is the man they're riding for. Let's see, yeah. Giddick comes to the front. This is exactly what we thought might happen before the start, and he now is setting the pace for Lutsenko on this climb. So we have our first conundrum of the day revealed. The answer to it is that Lutsenko is the man Kazakhstan are riding for. It's what we assumed, but what you're never quite certain of until they line up on the final climb. Yevgeny Giddick is setting the pace for the former World Under-23 champion. And he's chasing down the lone rider who is 58 seconds ahead on the road, ďØNG, the defending champion. Just under 12 kilometres to go here on our way up to Chayak at 540 metres above sea level in Indonesia. Started in Subang. 144 kilometres of a road race at the Asian Games, the 18th edition. And this is where we're headed now, up into the hills. What a ride it's been from this man. ďØNG KｙungYu trying to get every ounce of power out of that bike that he can. Wind blowing across the road, but not too strong.
See you soon. Have a nice day. Selamat jalan. However, the next 11 kilometres or so for ďØNG are going to be relatively hellish. About a kilometre between him and this chasing pack, but you can already see how much that's been whittled down. And another Chinese rider who's struggling there is Liu Jiankun.
Yep, Liu Jiankun, who's part of that Mitchelton Bike Exchange development team, registered in China but run from Australia. Very talented 23-year-old rider, hanging off the back of that chase group. If you haven't had the legs here, then you will not be involved at all in the final shake-up. 56 seconds for the leader. We're over 3 hours of racing into this. And Kazakhstan have control from start to finish. Is there going to be an Iranian surprise, though?
Well, you see Godic frequently looking down there, looking at his monitor. He'll want to know exactly what power he's putting out at this stage in order to be able to pace Lutsenko in the best means possible. They will have had a plan of exactly how much energy to expend on this climb, at which points they're going to push it, and at which points they're going to attack. And at the moment, everything about Kazakhstan's performance suggests that they are still in complete control.
Approaching the final 10 kilometres of this men's road race at the 18th ASIAD in Jakarta, Palembang 2018. We're on the island of Java to the west of the island and heading up to Chayak at the finish. Đứng KY, who won 4 years ago in the Korean city of Incheon on home soil, has put in a beautiful, combative, entertaining performance today.
Sawadi finishes off. Oh no, missed it. It's 7:20. Sorry. Oh, he hit it below the net. Wow, it looked like such a comprehensive smash, and he raced away so quick, I thought, in celebration. Oh, Debbie Susanto having a rear. Apologies for that. Still match point. There it is. Susanto takes the 21st and final point for Indonesia in the game, in the match. Okay, Sawadi and Debbie Susanto. Sinov, Rajnadit Tamang and Nangsal Tamang of Nepal in very, very comfortable style, and the Indonesian pair, Sawadi and Susanto, go through to the round of 16 in the mixed doubles.
Against the very best in the world. This year is the overall winner of the Tour of Oman. Can he pull it off after his team has worked for him for the last 3 hours? Rider from Mongolia is done.
Iran with 2 riders there sitting just behind Lutsenko, which will be of a concern there for the rider from Kazakhstan.
And Iran, who haven't had to do too much work all day long. Here we go then. Pousaidi Gulakhur and Mehdi Sorabi. Lutsenko isn't going to be sucked into chasing this. This is the idea from Iran. Try and make Lutsenko chase on his own. Try and tire him out. Because Iran, who have another rider back in the group, would just fail to follow. Now Lutsenko has to be prepared to lose this in order to win it from here, I think. That is, unless he is feeling so strong he can chase everything down. He's looking around for allies to chase this.
But he also will know through his course reconnaissance that there are some much tougher gradients still to come in the remaining 8.6 kilometres. It's an awfully long way to go out, and already they're closing back in.
And he is chasing this. He's chasing this because he knows it's a dangerous move. He waited to see if someone was going to come and have a go and look at Safaradze. Lutsenko has gone out and searched himself. He's being followed by Pousaidi, who's behind. And Lutsenko's little acceleration here has done a lot of damage. Around 15 riders left in the group behind him, maximum 20. ďØNG is still at the front, but he has less than 15-20 seconds now. 12, there we go. This is the meaty part of the climb approaching. For the next 3 kilometres, the gradients are very, very tough indeed. Thailand take it on at the front. Lutsenko's riding well here. Don't worry about this man. He is not going to be a factor for too much longer, but I think it's time for everybody to appreciate what a super ride it's been by ďØNG KY. Swings from side to side, shakes his head. 8 seconds. Take a bow. It has been some bike ride from the reigning Asian Games champion. I think he knew today he wasn't realistically going to be up there for the win. He has put everything in there. He's left everything out on the road, and he's about to be caught with just 7.5 kilometres remaining.
Damage has been done in that group behind, but not excessive damage. There are still over 20 riders involved in that group, and well, we do have the hardest gradient still to come as we see bidons jettisoned into the side. So the racing's fully on, the fight for the medals is fully on. Expect it in the next 3 kilometres. I think we'll end up with a breakaway group of a maximum of 5, and that will be where the final medals are decided.
Quang there at the back from Vietnam. Thailand taking it up at the front. They have 2 riders back in this behind their main man. Lutsenko is following everything. In fact, Thailand the only team with a full complement of 4 riders in this group. As the breakaway is done, it's all back together. Jong's adventure at the front of the race is finished just 7.4 kilometres from the conclusion of it. What a ride from the defending champion. Question now is who's going to be the new champion? Fumiyuki Beppu still there for Japan with his jersey open. Has his compatriot Nakate just up the road. So it's a little lull in the action since the break was called. Who's going to be next to go?
6.4 kilometres to go was the moment yesterday when Na struck and made one of the telling drives. Managed to get the group down to just 6 riders with that drive. So we've got another 600 metres before that moment. The question is, who's going to lead the attack if it does indeed come at a similar point?
Anybody who thinks they can't win in a sprint from a bunch here has to make a move in the next couple of kilometres. And that's exactly what Indonesia are doing now.
Now the Indonesian team, as I was saying earlier on in the race today, been away in Melbourne, special training done there in the equivalent of altitude training camp. They came back, their coach has said they have been a different set of riders since coming back from Australia. They have been explosive, they've been able to take on climbs like this, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah, at a facility in Melbourne they were able to simulate altitude training, and this is where the road just strike up again. Now Lutsenko is chasing this move. 6.5 kilometres remain. Robin Manulang, who's been so good at the SEA Games in the last few years. He won the TT in Singapore. He won the road race 2 years before that. He's in much more esteemed company here though. Alexei Lutsenko chasing on. Pursaidi Gulahur not far behind for Iran as well. Here at the back wearing number 3 is Dadi Suryadi, the compatriot of the attacker here, Manulang. Lutsenko still works hard. No shortage of encouragement for the Indonesian riding on. Robin Manulang still out there, but it's a huge ask to go away and take this race. Certainly with the quality still behind us. Someone else is being made to pay. It's Choi Hee Fung now, who is struggling to hold the pace.
Looks as though he might be able to just pull himself back in, but it's because these gradients come thick and fast on this final climb that we saw it yesterday in the women's race, and I think we're going to see it again here in the men's race, that riders, if they do make it back, another attack will rain in very fast, and that's where they'll be dropped because they won't have anything left to give. At the moment, Lutsenko was looking very, very relaxed at the front of the chasing group. For the first time there, we just saw in the back of the shot, he was getting out of the seat onto the pedals to try and pull himself back.
Lutsenko out the saddle now, making a move as his own. He himself is a strong finisher, but he'll be looking around and maybe wary of anybody that's hanging on. He'll want to do a little bit more damage to this group just yet. A couple of the Malaysians in there, they're noted sprinters as well. They're just hanging in the black jerseys towards the back. Lutsenko takes a drink from that bidon. So much pressure on the Kazakhstani to finish the job that's been done all day long by his team. Motorbike's being waved on by the Commissar as Manulang is about to be brought back.
16 riders about to join back up with our Seoul Indonesian, so it's still a group of 17 with just over 5 kilometres to go. That is a large group.
Well, a lot of the ramps, the serious ones, are about to end. Yes, it still goes uphill. Now then, a move on the right-hand side, a move from Indonesia yet again. And this time it's Ayman Kahyadi. And Lutsenko chases down once more. Thailand trying to react here. Look how steep the gradient is now. We lose 2 riders from Malaysia. Lutsenko on the attack. This is the moment he's choosing to attack. And this is a huge moment in this Asian Games road race. A look behind as Alexei Lutsenko launched onto the coattails of that attack from Kahyadi of Indonesia and has got out in the front. He's been joined by both Japanese riders who've ridden a good race here, Nakane and Beppu. Thailand have 2 men in this move. Chinese Taipei trying to follow, and notably none of the Iranians are present in this front group.
7 riders left, and it's soon going to become 6 as well, and 2 still from Japan. What a performance it's been from their riders.
Well, this is Pursaidi Gulakhur being distanced behind, a big name for Iran. Malaysia have done well to hold on. Now Japan suddenly are big players in this game, as are Thailand. Lutsenko still the class act, still the name here, but is he going to be outnumbered and out-tacticked? 4.9 kilometres to go. Who is going to work in this group? You expect that it's Japan and Thailand. Certainly Thailand with 3 riders now. What a performance it's been from them. Tanakan, Navuti, Sarawut and Pirapol are all riders who started the race. 4.5 kilometres remaining.
It's been anything but smooth going for the Thai team as well. Remember, mechanical right at the beginning, bike change later on in the stage as well. We have 6 riders up in front. 2 from Japan, 3 from Thailand, 1 from Kazakhstan. One Thai rider looked as though it was just losing the back wheel, and we've lost one. So
that
down again.
Sarawut who is dropped. Sarawut Sididonachai. And this is, well, the Thai rider too strong for his own teammate there. 4.5 Ks to go as Beppu with the jersey open for Japan wonders where the next move is going to come from. Nakane on the left-hand side. It's the rider from Nippo Vini Fantini who is forcing Lutsenko to chase it. And this is the tactic here from Japan. Try to tire out Lutsenko, try to force him to chase every move. This is the real chance they have here. If the teammate Beppu can follow, then this is good news for them, and it will help Thailand too. Lutsenko is outnumbered here, as Kazakhstan have been the team who've controlled the race from start so far. Almost to finish now. Japan forcing the Thais to come through and take their own turns. 76 in there is Pirapol, 79 is Navuti. So Pirapol, Chao Chang Kwang and Navuti Liphongyu still there for Thailand, with Beppu, Nakane and Lutsenko in the navy blue. The 2 Thai riders wearing the yellow. This is Nakane for Japan.
Nakane, as you can see, really putting the hammer down. As you'll remember from those of you who saw the women's race yesterday, it is a little bit of a false flat here before going up once again. So a little bit of respite for the riders. They should all stay together as a group here. We've seen riders hemorrhaging out the back of the group over the last 2 kilometres, as we expected. And we are now down to 5 riders. It's going to be these 5 who decide the podium here at the Asian Games 2018.
3.5 kilometres to go. Japan and Thailand trying to put pressure on Alexei Lutsenko. Wearing the black helmet for Thailand is Navuti Liphongyu. Wearing the white helmet with the yellow jersey on is Pirapol Chao Chang Kwang. The orange bike for Japan in the white jersey is Hideto Nakane. Fumiyuki Beppu is the Japanese rider with the jersey open at the back. Alexei Lutsenko is the rider we've been watching since the start. 3 kilometres to go. A group of 5 of its stand is going to contest the gold medal at the Asian Games. Nakane sacrificing his own chances here for Fumiyuki Beppu. The 35-year-old, the granddaddy of this peloton, the elder statesman of the world peloton and one of the most popular riders on the circuit. He's just signed a brand new deal to stay with his Trek Segafredo team all the way to the Tokyo Olympic Games. Is he a man to take what will be a pretty surprise victory here on quite a hilly finish? He's got a very good sprint on him as Fumiyuki Beppu. But we know that Lutsenko's second wheel is the strongest all-round rider. The two big unknowns are the Thai riders. They are not riders we have seen at any sort of the same level as Lutsenko or Beppu. They have been riding on the UCI Asia Tour, not on the World Tour, as the other two stars in the group have done. Even the man at the front here, Nakane, has ridden a lot of the big European races with his team that is a half Italian, half Japanese outfit. Approaching the final 2 kilometres now, 2.2 to go.
Nakane really is throwing the hammer down here. He is pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to exhaust Lutsenko, trying to set up Fumiyuki Beppu into the best possible situation he can. It does ramp uphill towards the finish. We saw a sprint for the silver and bronze medals in the women's race yesterday, one in the Mbaipu of China. At the moment, it's fascinating what's taking place out there.
Nakane with 2 kilometres to go, still giving absolutely everything now for Japan. At the minute, everybody holding the wheel. Beppu just waits and waits and waits at the back. He's being pulled along. He'd be one of the strongest riders in the sprint, but what does Lutsenko have? Now Beppu moves up. The Thai rider's just forcing him in front. That's clever from them. Lutsenko staying second wheel. Well, if he goes here, somebody will follow. Is he strong enough, Lutsenko? He will be a feature if there's a sprint as well. As it stands, it's Lutsenko and Beppu, the two favourites. The Thai rider's the unknown. You'd imagine that one of those would need to attack.
Now it comes down to homework. Who's done their homework on the finish? Who's thought about attacking under the Flamme Rouge? Who's thought about attacking from 500 metres out? Who's not going to get mugged into leading out the sprint? All 5 of these riders in with a shot of a medal chance here at the Asian Games.
The man at the back, Lip Hong-yu, Navuti Lip Hong-yu, won the SEA Games road race last year in Kuala Lumpur, let's not forget. Just over a kilometre to go, and it is all coming down to a 5-man group at the end of the Asian Games road race. Who is going to succeed Ďŭng Kyung-yu of Korea, who won in Incheon 4 years ago? We've had no winner from Kazakhstan since 1994. We've had no winner from Japan since the late 1970s. Remember, it was Japan who won the first ever Asian Games road race all the way back in 1951 in Delhi. Kihei Tomioka. There have been 2 Thai wins, both of them coming in the 60s. One of them at the Asian Games in Jakarta, let's not forget. The last time the Games were here, 800 metres to go. It's still Nakane. It is still waiting, watching. It is going to come down to some sort of sprint here. Lutsenko in second wheel in the light blue. Third wheel is Beppu. Fourth wheel in the yellow is Pirapol. Right at the back there, Navuti, the SEA Games champion, in the black helmet, waiting and watching. Japan are going to lead this one out with Nakane. There are 400 metres to go. It rises up here. Soon somebody has to make a move. They'll be leaving it as late as possible. Fumiyuki Beppu waits. Navuti at the back now, approaching the final couple of 100 metres to go. Nakane, they turn around. Who knows where the finish line is? When was the recon done? Lutsenko has watched his teammates doing all the work. There we go, 300 metres to go. Lutsenko's forced to the front now. Beppu on his wheel. On the right-hand side, Thailand have options. They have one on the left as well in Navuti. The Thais are playing a great game with the two favourites here. Lots of looking around. Lots of cat and mouse stuff. Lutsenko, Beppu. Beppu is going to go on the left-hand side. Fumiyuki Beppu, it is in the white. Lutsenko on his wheel on the left-hand side in the blue. Remember, Kazakhstan worked all day long. Beppu, Lutsenko. It is Lutsenko comes through, pits it on the post, and Alexei Lutsenko finishes the job finally.
2 đánh
What
2
a
đánh 1. Đấy mà vấn đề thằng
the
Kazakhstan
race.
nó vô địch được.
Lutsenko looked as though Beppu had got the jump on him and he didn't have anything left to give, but he found that little extra ounce in the last 50 metres and he comes through and finishes on all of that phenomenal work done by his 3 teammates throughout the rest of the day's stage. Unbelievable win for Lutsenko. I think Beppu came through in second and one of the Thai riders, Đứng KY, picking up the bronze.
Well, not even the riders knew when the finish line was approaching then.
Quá hay.
We didn't
Bùi
see it
hôm qua
right
đua xe đạp,
until
nữ
the
có mỗi
shot.
mình bà Hàn Quốc mẹ nhai nhân sâm một mình một ngựa.
But Alexei
Chạy
Lutsenko, when Fumiyuki Beppu might have thought he had it won. Well played Kazakhstan for the work they did from start to finish.
Quá hay.
Lutsenko surviving to win the sprint in the end. He takes the gold medal and becomes the first winner from Kazakhstan since 1994. And what a lovely way to honour the memory of the late Andrei Kivilev. Alexei Lutsenko takes the Asian Games road race ahead of Fumiyuki Beppu and Navuti Limpongyu. It looked as though he might not have the power to come around the Japanese until the very last. Almost put into the barriers on the left-hand side as the finish approached. A funny 5-up sprint, won by the 25-year-old former under-23 world champion Alexei Lutsenko. The rider still finishing, but Alexei Lutsenko is the champion, and the pre-race favourite has done it. Indonesia provide plenty of fireworks as they did on the climb. It was their attacks that proved the launch pad for Lutsenko in the end. And Alexei Lutsenko, the real class act at these games, has come through and taken the win. Three hours, 25 minutes and 25 seconds. And once the sprint was launched, Thailand played it fairly well with riders left and right. And there is the success. He did what he was expected to do. And a lot of pressure on Alexei Lutsenko. Well, that'll make all the work worthwhile.
I haven't seen any of his teammates come across the line yet, because all of them will have just sat back and relaxed. He lost his last teammate, Yevgeny Gidich, with around 9 kilometers still to go, and that was a lot of work that needed to be done by Alexei Lutsenko, but he did it so well. Counted every attack that was made on that final climb, and then in the end still had the courage of his convictions to time his sprint up against the vastly experienced Fumiyuki Beppu. Still some delight there down at the finish for Team Kazakhstan.
I imagine that's Kazakh or Russian for very well done. The two main spoken languages in Kazakhstan. As Alexei Lutsenko is the victor. Riders from Mongolia, China and Syria finishing.
Just about to say, that's our sole Syrian rider coming across the line there. Wonderful effort from him. And I'm sure Alexei Lutsenko will want to celebrate with his teammates and thank them for the effort that they put in, because it was a brilliant ride tactically. Bijiktov and Fominink.
Here's the sprint again. You can see Beppu launching there with about 150 metres to go. Comes through the centre. Limpongyu in the yellow jersey behind. And look at Lutsenko on the left-hand side. I'm not quite sure what the man with the flag is doing there. Almost putting Lutsenko off. Right on the line he gets him. He left it very, very late indeed.
Just watch the reaction of Fumiyuki Beppu here. He had it. He knows he had it. And he knows he should have won, because when it comes to a straight-up sprint, he would have definitely considered himself the favourite against Lutsenko. But well, this young man timed everything to perfection, and
this is a nice image.
Wonderful image there of friendship and respect.
Disappointment for the Iranian team. They'd have expected more today. Not really a feature when it came home to the end. But Saidi gave his best. Best on the day wasn't anywhere near good enough. Another 30 riders across the finish now. Maybe Sorabi, the latest of those on the left-hand side, the sprinter. There's a hello to everybody back home from Kazakhstan's new Asian Games champion, Alexei Lutsenko. Now the crowd chant home the final Indonesian riders. The minute it's riders from Malaysia and Vietnam.
Coach from Hong Kong sends his players back to the court. Can they turn this round? Chung Yoni offering instructions to Tam Chun Hei. It's going to take some improvement on game one to trouble Rankaredi and Shetty in the men's mixed.
Fraction more time to play with.
Well, we've seen some comebacks in this match already, so we can't ever say the door is closed here for Vietnam, but 11-4 is going to take some drop.
去注意那个发球哦，你短发球要瞬间击球让它坠下来，要不然就是击网球，它网球高度会飞不住。